News Update. This is Carrie Geren Scoggins reporting. Today we're going to cover an issue concerning
Chuck Schumer and Harry Reid, Democrats, are trying to amend the First Amendment.
So I believe there ought to be limits, because the First Amendment is not absolute. No amendment is absolute. You can't scream fire falsely in a crowded theater. We have libel laws. We have anti-pornography laws. All of those are limits on the First Amendment. Well, what could be more important than the wellspring of our democracy and certain limits on First Amendment rights that, if left unfettered, destroy the equality, any semblance of equality in our democracy, of course would be allowed by the Constitution. And the new theorists on the Supreme Court who don't believe that, I'm not sure where their motivation comes from, but they're just so wrong. They're just so wrong.
The Democratic Party's endless attempts to attack our freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, and all First Amendment rights. Most currently, Chuck Schumer and Harry Reid, stating that they wanted to, quote, amend the First Amendment. With the support of top Democrats, they hope to amend the First Amendment, stopping all opposition to the Democratic Party platform, with support of those such as Hillary Clinton, of whom has stated clearly she wants Christianity to change their faith in order to abolish all scriptures against abortion. In other words, a state-approved Bible that does not oppose the Democratic Party platform. At the beginning of the Clintons' political career, back when Bill Clinton was the governor of Arkansas, Hillary wrote Goals 2000 for the public school system. Hillary wrote into Goals 2000 that it would be a hate crime for parents to teach their children, quote, biblical references to homosexuality. Of course, Congress did not accept this legislation due to the violations of separation of church and state, religious discrimination, the 1964 Civil Rights Act, giving religion protected class status under the law. Yet, the UN Rights of the Child accepted this as a charter into the UN, as they have nothing akin to our First Amendment. Noting that if Democrats amend the First Amendment, this will be the type of religious censorship that will enter into the United States. Other recent attempts we've seen at religious censorship would be that of lesbian mayor of Houston, Texas, of whom attempted to subpoena the church sermons on homosexuality of 5 churches in the Houston area. This, of course, was shot down because in attempts to bring in religious censorship with a state law that was an anti-discrimination law, the First Amendment rights of the churches, along with the biblical core values ruling, citing our legal right to adhere to biblical core values, such as Romans chapter 1, as stated by the Federal Supreme Court, and the 1964 Civil Rights Act, giving religion protected class status under the law, combined to trump state anti-discrimination laws as federal Trump state, and any law that opposes our First Amendment rights would be overturned by the Federal Supreme Court. Anais Parker pulled her attempts to subpoena these church sermons not just due to outcry, but the threat of lawsuits from Christian civil rights groups representing the Houston Five, the 5 churches in Houston, Texas, of whom she attempted to violate their Christian civil rights. And still under attack by liberal Democrats is our public school system. Our Christian students' civil rights, their First Amendment rights, while they're on government land. Though most Democrats do know, the federal Supreme Court many times has upheld the Christian students' First Amendment rights while on government land, stating that student-led prayer, Bible studies, religious groups are fully legal. In Everett, Washington, a student had been suspended for sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ at a public school. Federal judge orders expungement of punishment against the teen who shared Christ with classmates. Remembering, there is no freedom from religion. The Freedom from Religion Foundation and the ACLU has not won a case in the federal Supreme Court to attain a freedom from religion. Sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ is fully legal. The federal Supreme Court upheld our legal right to proselytize. Remembering our students do not lose their First Amendment rights when going on to government land. As long as it's student-led, it is not considered state endorsement of religion. Though the Democratic Party has encompassed our public school system with political propaganda to further their agenda, such as gay-straight alliance, gay and lesbian activist groups such as One in Teen, the National Socialist Club, the Student Pagan Organization, and other groups bringing in anti-Christian, New Age, Marxist, socialist propaganda in order to de-Christianize the students in the public schools through student-led groups, and in some cases, such as in California, students were forced to listen to LGBT groups come in and speak on gay rights and directly violate the Christian civil rights by mocking Christian students, as well as practicing religious discrimination, violating the Christian students' civil rights. Their legal right to oppose the Democratic Party platform was trampled upon. The conservatives, Republicans, and Christian religious right need to get together and work to start a base in the schools of student-led groups to oppose the Democratic Party's agenda in the school system. The state forcibly has to allow an opposing viewpoint, remembering when the hate speech laws were overturned in the federal Supreme Court. The federal Supreme Court upheld our legal right to debate the issues, citing homosexuality, Islam, other religions, or any issue from a biblical viewpoint. Our legal right to adhere to biblical core values, federal Supreme Court ruling also applies. Our students do not lose their First Amendment rights when going upon government land. And again, student-led groups are fully legal. It was not identified as state endorsement of religion. Just as Gay-Straight Alliance and the liberal Democrat groups teach their students in the public schools to get involved in political activism to further their agenda, so must the Republicans, Christian religious right, Tea Party, and the opposition to the liberals need to stand up and teach their youth to do the same. Letter writing to congressmen, legislators, writing letters to the media, and speaking out concerning their Christian civil rights and from a conservative political viewpoint. This is one area that the liberal Democrats truly want to stamp out, and that is our legal right to oppose their viewpoint and to teach the youth an opposition to their views. The 2007 baby boom generation was the largest generation in global history, larger than the first boomer generation. This generation has been denied the teaching of what our First Amendment truly is and what it means for the American people and what our founding fathers fought for. With such liberal Democrats as Chuck Schumer, who they themselves do not grasp the necessity of our legal right to oppose the state's viewpoint, our legal right to a free media, our legal right to religious freedom, to preach and teach from an uncensored Bible. This generation is being denied what our founding fathers fought to die for in the ideology of what is freedom from tyranny. The legal right to protest, the legal right to oppose the state's views, the legal right to adhere to what we call biblical core values, as the federal Supreme Court cited. The libertarian saying that you're not a libertarian until you support the legal rights of those that you despise is no longer being taught in the public schools. Our students are still being taught the lie that they can censor out any view that they find offensive, even though the hate speech laws were overturned in the federal Supreme Court, upholding our legal right to debate the issues. Remembering to have the legal right to debate is the legal right to argue and oppose someone else's views. The Democratic Party wants to steal your legal right to oppose their viewpoints with attempts such as Chuck Schumer has made, trying to amend our First Amendment. We need to teach our children why this is wrong and what our founding fathers stood for, and allow them to have groups in the public schools to teach other children these same values.
This has been another edition of End Times Prophecy News Update. Thank you for listening.